My friends, I want to share a story with you, a moment in my life that still echoes deep in my spirit. I was a young man, standing in a quiet corner of a humble gathering space, wrestling with a profound sense of unease. I had come to a crossroads where I realized that everything I had once thought would satisfy my heart, material success, acceptance from the people around me, even knowledge for knowledge's sake, was leaving me emptier than ever. Late that night, I stepped outside and looked up at the sky. The stars were bright, almost unbearably so, and in their silent testimony, I sensed a call, an invitation to accept something greater than myself. In that moment, I whispered a tentative prayer. I'm ready to let go of my fears. I'm ready to accept the path you have for me. I cannot quite put into words the power of that prayer, but I do know that felt a release, a gentle loosening of the chains I had bound around my own heart and mind. And I realized that when we accept the divine with humility and openness, we open the door to liberation. Now, you may be asking, liberation from what? We live in a world filled with pressures. Many of you feel the demands of family, the stress of work obligations, or the uncertainties of youth, the Almighty. Others wrestle with doubts that come when business ventures falter or communities face division. The pressures might look different for each of us, but the underlying weight is the same. We yearn for a release from burdens that keep us trapped in fear or regret. We yearn to see clearly what our true purpose is, and we long to feel deeply that we are loved. Our hearts cry out, the ear must be more than just going through the motions, more than simply wearing a smile while our souls remain unsettled within. This is the relevance of spiritual acceptance, friends, because it addresses that deep and often unspoken need to be free from what binds us. You might think of it like stepping into a new season. Each season in nature has its own challenges, its own storms. The winter blasts can seem endless, the Almighty, and the gloom can settle thick over the landscape of our hearts. But then spring comes, and in a flash of color, the darkness is dispelled. In that same way, spiritual acceptance ignites an inner springtime in our souls, dispelling old shadows, old regrets, old patterns of thinking, and opening us to a renewed mindset. That renewed mindset leads to renewed actions. Renewed actions lead to renewed relationships. And renewed relationships ultimately lead to a renewed life. I stand here before you to tell you that the call to liberate your heart and mind through spiritual acceptance is not meant for a select few. It is not reserved only for those who appear pious or who have some special connection. It is for the father hustling every morning to provide for his family, for the young person confused about identity and belonging, for the entrepreneur who doubts whether the next venture will succeed, for the mother who feels she has lost herself in caring for everyone else. It is for every heart that has been crying, let me be free. Because the greatest tragedies in life are not the external trials. They are the internal wars that go unaddressed, that keep us bound by guilt or shame or endless cycles of frustration. Yet there is a remedy, a glorious release from these chains. So, tonight I want to lay before you a path, a journey composed of 7 distinct steps that can help you open the door to that sense of freedom and acceptance. You will hear me speak of ancient truths, of lessons learned from Scripture, from my own life, and from the lives of countless individuals I have had the blessing to speak with over the years. I will invite you to see yourselves in those stories, to recognize that in each testimony lies the whisper of a greater plan waiting for you. And if we can collectively grasp the simple power of letting go of our old burdens, if we can reach out in faith and trust, I believe with all my heart that every single person here can experience a fresh wind, a liberation so real that we will wonder how we ever lived without it. My question for you right now is this: are you ready? Because when we talk about spiritual acceptance, we are not speaking of a passive exercise. It requires your heart, your willingness to face some truths you may have buried, to relinquish some anger you might have been clutching for years. It requires stepping into unknown waters. But my friends, in these unknown waters, we find healing. We find restoration. We find the divine arms open wide to embrace us, even with all our flaws, with all our hidden bruises. I want to challenge you, each and every one of you, to dare to step onto this path, to consider the possibility that all the anxieties, all the mental clutter, all the sleepless nights could be answered by a posture of acceptance. Acceptance of the sacred presence in your life. Acceptance of the truth about who you are in that light, and acceptance of a mission that is bigger, bolder, and more meaningful than any ambition you might chase on your own. The very reason you've come tonight, or you've tuned in to watch, might be that your spirit has been nudging you to find a new direction. I urge you to listen to that nudge, to heed that whisper that says, there is a better way. And as I stand before you, I affirm there is a better way. And it begins with opening your heart to the one who calls you by name. So let us embark on this journey together, understanding that these 7 steps of liberating the heart and mind are not mere theories. They are tried and tested principles. They have brought hope to communities on the brink of a collapse, to families on the verge of breaking, to young people on the edge of despair, and to individuals battling the silent warfare of the soul. Through practical examples, honest confessions, and tangible methods, I will guide you in this process, and by the end of our time together, you will stand at a new threshold, ready to choose a path of freedom. Let us go forth, then, with open hearts and expectant spirits, believing that what we set in motion tonight can have an eternal ripple effect on our lives and the world around us. To begin, I ask you to prepare yourselves. Open your heart to the possibility of transformation. Allow yourself to feel the stirring of hope, because once the heart opens and the mind surrenders its restless fears, the extraordinary work of grace can begin. And when grace takes hold of your life, nothing, absolutely nothing, will be the same again. Are you ready for that journey? Then let us begin. I want to lay out the blueprint for you, not as a rigid formula, but as guiding steps born from the wisdom of ages and confirmed through daily life. We will walk through these revelations with sincerity and expectancy, mindful that each step can help us release one more layer of bondage, doubt, or regret. My friends, I promise you, by embracing these 7 steps through spiritual acceptance, you will witness walls crumble, eyes open, and hearts awaken. You will find that there is more to your life than you ever dreamed, and in that sacred more is the path to genuine liberty. Let me speak now of the essence behind this, why these steps, and how they each propel us forward in ways we might not anticipate. In my early years, I was no stranger to questions about destiny, about whether God truly listens, whether there's a plan guiding us when life seems chaotic. I have discovered that in surrendering to acceptance. The Almighty, you begin to see threads of providence weaving through what once seemed random. You begin to sense there is a design, the Almighty, and that your life is part of a grand tapestry. It's in this awareness that liberation truly begins. So come with me as we walk through these principles, and let us allow our hearts and minds to be transformed by the truth hidden within each step. Let us look first at the principle that ignites this journey, the willingness to realize we are bound. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Yet so many people go through life never admitting they are chained by fear, regret, pride, or resentment. Imagine a young person who dreams of changing the world, but is shackled by the belief that they are unworthy. That false assumption robs them of courage. Or think of a parent who is so filled with guilt over past mistakes that each day is overshadowed by shame. When we can honestly say, I am bound and I need freedom, the first spark of liberation is lit. I remember talking to a businessman, a successful man by every worldly measure, who confessed that he felt an emptiness that haunted him at night. It was only when he admitted that no amount of money could fill that void that he found the capacity to open his heart. So step 1 often begins with a humble prayer. I see the chains and I want out. That prayer, though quiet, resounds in the heavens. This is where acceptance takes root, in the acknowledgement that we cannot break free alone, that we need a power greater than ourselves. Now, from the vantage point of that first admission, we come to the second principle, the need to identify the voice of the divine, the gentle whisper calling us out of captivity. Every day we are bombarded by countless voices. Society, media, acquaintances, and even our own internal critic. Amid that noise, the voice that truly matters can get lost. But if you listen carefully in moments of silence, in a stirring word of Scripture, or in a timely encouragement from a friend, you will discover that God is indeed speaking to you. Identifying that voice requires patience, a deliberate quieting of the mind, and a willingness to set aside distraction. I recall a conversation with a teenager in my congregation who struggled with anxiety. She told me that she only found peace when she left her phone in another room off the television and spent a few moments in simple prayer. She felt a calm she had never experienced before, a gentle reassurance that she was seen and loved. That reassurance fueled her resolve to face her fears. We, too, can find that divine reassurance if we attune ourselves to the voice that speaks life and truth. Third, we must confront what I call the mirror of the heart. If we want liberation, we need to hold our own hearts up to the light and examine what is written there. Pride, resentment, bitterness, self-pity, or envy, these can linger in dark corners if left unaddressed. A father came to me once, distraught because he felt disconnected from his children. Through tears, he admitted a hidden anger that stemmed from his own childhood, anger he had carried for years, unknowingly passing it to his son. When he took time to face it, to speak it out, and to invite healing, the transformation began not just in him, but also in his family. Confronting our hearts is seldom comfortable, but it is necessary, because only when we truly see what is broken can we allow the light of divine grace to mend it. The mirror of the heart doesn't lie. It reflects the truth of who we are now, and it also shows the potential of who we can become once freed. We come then to the fourth principle, releasing the burdens. This is the step where we lay down the weight we have been carrying. Guilt, shame, regret, these can feel like heavy stones in a backpack we never remove. A woman I once counseled felt crippled by regret over an estranged relationship with her sister. For years, she couldn't bring herself to pick up the phone. In a moment of prayer, she sensed the nudge to let it go, to forgive herself, to forgive her sister, and to release the anger she had been holding. She called her sister the next day, and that single act of release opened the floodgates of reconciliation. This is not a magic trick. It is the power of letting go. Some of you might be carrying a grudge from decades ago or an unresolved wound from childhood. If you want your heart to be free, set the burdens down. You cannot run the race of life unshackled if you insist on dragging the weights of yesterday. But letting go is not the end of the story. The fifth principle is about receiving what I call the divine exchange. You see, when you release what is toxic, you create space for the healing gifts of grace, peace, hope, and love. These are not abstract concepts. They are living realities that transform your inner world. I remember a young man who had grown up in a home filled with strife. He had never known real peace. When he finally forgave his father for the years of harsh criticism, he said it was like his entire body exhaled a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. In that space where hatred once lived, he began to feel something new, compassion. It shocked him at first. He discovered that the acceptance of God's love could flow not only into him, but also through him. This divine exchange is a wondrous mystery. You empty your hands of bitterness, and into those open hands flows something far greater. Now, these 5 principles set the stage, but we continue with the 6th principle, realigning your life to move forward on a new path. Once you have released and received, you can't stay where you are. You must make conscious choices that reflect your new inner reality. Perhaps it means changing the way you speak to your loved ones. Perhaps it means reevaluating the business practices in your company, ensuring that integrity guides your decisions. Maybe it's about stepping away from harmful relationships or habits that pull you back into the old cycle. We often assume that spiritual acceptance is purely internal, but it has tangible outward effects. A person who has truly embraced liberation doesn't revert to old patterns. They strive to walk a new journey. And though no one is perfect, the consistent intention is to let that inner transformation shape daily conduct. Think about the difference it would make if our communities operated on principles of compassion, if families openly spoke truth in love, if businesses prioritized ethics over profit. This realignment, step by step, day by day, reshapes everything. Finally, the 7th principle, sharing the light. True liberation is never meant to be hidden away. When you discover freedom, you become a beacon to those still trapped in darkness. I once knew a man who had battled an addiction for many years. He found hope and healing through these spiritual principles. Now, he runs a mentorship program at his church, guiding others who are where he once was. This final step is a gift to the world, the Almighty, because by sharing your journey, you multiply the transformative power you've encountered. You become a catalyst in your own family and community. Even in your workplace, people can sense something different about you. They see the peace in your eyes, the kindness in your words. It draws them in, and they begin to wonder, could I experience that too? And the answer is a resounding yes, because the well of grace never runs dry. There is enough light for all, enough hope for every weary heart, enough acceptance for every lost soul. Now, I want to step back and provide some real, tangible examples of how these steps have unfolded in varying contexts. Take the life of a college student bombarded daily by the demand to perform, to compete academically, and to appear socially confident. He might realize he's bound by the anxiety of not measuring up. So he admits his bondage. Step 1 decides to get quiet enough to hear God's reassuring voice amidst the campus noise. Step 2, and looks in the mirror of his heart to see he's battling an underlying fear of failure. As step 3, he releases that fear through honest prayer and perhaps confiding in a mentor. Step 4, in so doing, he opens himself to receive peace, a peace that surpasses what any test grade can offer. As step 5, from there, he starts changing his study habits, ensuring he rests and respects his mental health. Step 6. And finally, with the new peace he's gained, he shares his story with other anxious classmates, showing them that there's a better way to find fulfillment. Step 7. That's how these steps translate into real life for someone in the stage of youth. Consider 2. A family scenario. The Almighty. Imagine a family with 3 children, all under the age of 10, and the parents are trying to balance their work schedules, financial worries, and the emotional needs of each child. Tensions rise, arguments happen frequently, and the household feels chaotic. The parents recognize that they are bound by a feeling of helplessness, step 1. In a moment of spiritual reflection, they sense the calling to slow down, to seek the divine perspective for their home. Step 2. They look at themselves honestly, acknowledging the anger and impatience that have built up. Step 3. They choose to let go of the guilt and disappointment that they haven't been perfect parents. Forgiving each other, forgiving themselves, step 4. Then they receive fresh grace, a renewed sense that they can nurture an environment of love and understanding. Step 5. They begin scheduling family devotion time, open conversations, and set healthier boundaries so that their household aligns with the principles they have accepted. Step 6. Gradually, the Almighty. They become a testimony to neighbors and friends who see a shift in the children's attitudes, who see more smiles than frustration in that home. As step 7. That's the power of spiritual acceptance radiating from one family into the broader community. The same principles apply in business or community leadership. Let's take the example of a small business owner who has been running a shop for years without a sense of purpose other than profit. He notices morale among his employees is low, turnover is high. He realizes he's bound by a purely profit-driven mentality that leaves him hollow. As step 1. He takes a day to step away from the hustle, praise, and listens for that higher voice. Step 2. In the mirror of his heart, he sees that he's held onto a failure from a previous failed venture. A step 3. He decides to release that fear, trusting that there is a guiding hand beyond his control. Says step 4. Into that space flows a new vision, one that includes valuing employees and serving customers with genuine care. Step 5. He then implements policies that reflect integrity and compassion. From fair wages to honest advertising. Step 6. Before long, staff members take pride in their work. Customers sense the difference, and this shop becomes a beacon in the community, known as a place where honesty and kindness prevail. Step 7. Prosperity follows, but it's a prosperity rooted in spiritual acceptance, which touches every life it encounters. You see, my friends, these steps are not complicated, but they are profound. They challenge us to face our excuses, to admit our need, and to open ourselves to transformation. Each of us has a unique battle, whether it's fear, resentment, envy, or pride, and each of us has a unique path to walk. But the underlying solution is the same. Surrender yourself to the divine plan. Accept that you are loved, cherished, and called for a purpose. When you place your burdens at the feet of the Almighty, you create space for miracles to unfold. Miracles don't have to be dramatic partings of seas. Often, they're the small, daily breakthroughs that change hearts and shift relationships. A spouse might learn to express love after years of cold distance. A long-held grudge might dissolve, opening the door to reconciliation. A young person might discover a confidence that no earthly circumstance can diminish. These are miracles in the truest sense, acts of transformation that shape our destiny and the destinies of those around us. I want to address some common struggles that arise while applying these steps, because it's easy to get discouraged if you think the path should be effortless. One struggle is the fear that you're not good enough to deserve freedom. But let me tell you, none of us can earn grace through our own merit. That's the beauty of it. The invitation is extended to all, regardless of your background or past mistakes. Another struggle is impatience. We may lay down our burdens one day, then pick them right back up the next. Spiritual acceptance is a journey that requires daily recommitment. Sometimes you'll stumble, but stumbling forward is better than standing still. Another difficulty is cynicism. We might think this is just wishful thinking. Real life is harsh, and spiritual acceptance won't fix everything. But real life is exactly where spiritual truths find their greatest power. The harshness of life is no match for the resilience and hope fueled by divine grace. Remember the small business owner, the anxious student, the fractured family. These weren't imaginary scenarios. They were real people who discovered that acceptance is not passive. It's an active partnership with the one who breathes life and purpose into every moment. If you find yourself hitting a wall, I encourage you to find a community of support. We are not meant to do this alone. Whether it's a place of worship, a small group of trusted friends, the Almighty, or a mentor who has walked a similar path, having companions on this journey is invaluable. When our own faith falters, someone else's faith can help carry us through. When our resolve weakens, another's encouragement can reignite our passion. Through community, we learn that acceptance is not a single-player endeavor, it is a shared endeavor. And in sharing, we strengthen one another. Now, let me share a personal lesson I learned when I was first stepping into these truths. Years ago, I struggled with the desire to control outcomes, whether in ministry, in writing, or in personal relationships. I wanted everything to align perfectly with what I envisioned. But that controlling mindset left me frustrated, anxious, and sometimes even resentful. It was only when I recognized that I was bound by my own pride, convinced that I knew best, that I admitted my need for freedom. In prayer, I listened for the voice I had been drowning out with my own demands. I saw in the mirror of my heart that I was insecure, fearing failure if things didn't go according to my plan. Letting go of that fear was terrifying at first. But the moment I did, I felt a divine assurance that I was never in control in the way I imagined. And that, my friends, was liberating. From there, Almighty, I received a deeper peace, and I started changing how I approached responsibilities. I became more open to the unexpected, more willing to trust that the plan was bigger than me. And over time, I noticed that my willingness to share my vulnerabilities actually brought healing to others who felt the same way. Today, I can tell you I am far less anxious because I continually remind myself that real freedom is not about controlling every detail. It's about releasing control to the one who knows how to weave all details into something beautiful. Perhaps some of you here are community leaders, educators, or influencers of some sort. You might be concerned about how your personal spiritual journey affects those under your leadership. Let me assure you, when a leader embraces spiritual acceptance, it creates a ripple effect of authenticity and trust. People can sense when a leader is genuine, when their words are not just clever slogans, but reflections of a heart that has been humbled and transformed. And that kind of authenticity draws people in, opens them up, and fosters an environment where real change can occur. Imagine a community where leaders practice forgiveness, where families nurture love, and where young people are encouraged to see themselves through the lens of purpose rather than peer pressure. That vision is not a distant fantasy. It begins with individuals who dare to liberate their own hearts and minds and then share that liberation with everyone they meet. Now, let me bring you into a moment of reflection. Take a second wherever you are and pause. The Almighty. Think about something you've been holding onto. Maybe it's a resentment, a fear, a sense of failure, or a regret. Allow yourself to acknowledge that burden. Imagine placing it into your hands. Now, open those hands. Let that burden drop. Feel the release of the weight. Sense the space that's been freed up in your heart. That space is precisely where grace, peace, the Almighty, and purpose are waiting to rush in. If you can visualize that simple act of releasing, you're already beginning the journey of acceptance. It's essential to note that while these 7 steps outline a roadmap, they are meant to be repeated, revisited, and deepened over the course of your life. Liberation is not a one-time event. It's a daily posture of humility and trust. The more you grow in it, the more layers you'll discover, and each layer you shed brings you closer to the abundant life you were designed to live, the Almighty. That's why I encourage you not to see these principles as a checklist, but as living, breathing invitations. Each time you revisit them, you'll find fresh meaning and fresh power to keep moving forward. So where do we go from here? You've heard the steps, recognizing bondage, hearing the divine voice, examining your heart, releasing burdens, receiving grace, realigning your life, and sharing the light. Now it's on you to take action. Perhaps you'll journal tonight, putting words to the burdens you need to release. Maybe you'll find a quiet place to pray and listen. Or you might gather your family or your colleagues and speak openly about a new way of doing life and business. The possibilities are endless, but the key is to do something. The spiritual life is a life of forward motion. Even when we rest, We rest in the arms of the Almighty, who continues to guide us deeper into truth. I want to remind you that no matter how long you've been bound, no matter how heavy the chains, there is hope. The greatest breakthroughs often come when we are at our lowest. Look at the stories in Scripture. The children of Israel weren't delivered until they'd reached the point of crying out under slavery. Jonah found his calling in the belly of a great fish. Sometimes the darkest circumstances are precisely where the brightest light appears. If you are in a dark place right now, don't despair. Your story isn't over. It might just be the setup for a profound revelation of freedom. Also, don't underestimate the impact of small obediences. A kind word to someone who hurt you, a single phone call to mend a broken relationship, a 5-minute prayer in the morning. These acts, small as they seem, can trigger a cascade of blessings. One small surrender can unlock a tidal wave of liberation. That's how our Creator works, often in quiet, subtle ways that surprise us with their power. If you are consistent in these small steps, you'll find yourself changing from the inside out. People around you will notice, and they might even begin to ask, what happened to you? You seem different, more at peace, more joyful. That's your opening to say, I've found freedom through spiritual acceptance. And in that moment, you're sharing the light, fulfilling the 7th principle and igniting new hope in them. As you can see, these truths apply universally. Whether you are young or old, wealthy or struggling financially, settled or at a crossroads, the call to freedom remains the same. Your background does not disqualify you. In fact, sometimes those who have traveled the roughest roads are the ones who appreciate grace the most. They are the ones who become the brightest beacons, testifying that if they can be transformed, anyone can. Let us never forget that each of us carries a testimony that can set someone else free. There is power in your story, in your willingness to be honest about your wounds and to point to the source of your healing. Now, as we draw near the end of our journey tonight, I invite you to recall where we started. We began with the personal story of a young man gazing at the stars, uncertain but hopeful, sensing a divine call. That night, under the expanse of the heavens, I whispered a prayer that changed the trajectory of my life. It was a prayer that said yes to God, yes to grace, yes to being loved despite my flaws. That one yes led me here, speaking to you now, bearing witness that spiritual acceptance opens doors we never even knew existed. Think about the journey we've walked through together. We acknowledge the chains that hold us back and recognized that to break free, we must first admit we need freedom. We spoke of the power of hearing the divine voice amid the clamor of everyday life, the courage it takes to examine our hearts and confront uncomfortable truths, the necessity of releasing those burdens, and the wonder of receiving the gifts that fill us once we empty ourselves of negativity. We explored how to realign our daily lives to reflect our newfound liberation and then extend that liberation to the world around us. Through personal stories and real-life examples from all walks of life, we've seen that these principles are not mere theories. They are living seeds of transformation that, if watered, will bear fruit for years to come. I want you to imagine your life a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, if you were to take hold of these 7 steps daily. Picture the weight that would be lifted from your mind when you no longer carry regrets about the past. Envision your relationships transformed by forgiveness and understanding, your workplace energized by compassion and purpose, your community lit up with hope because you dared to share what you've received. See yourself waking up each morning with a sense of anticipation rather than dread, welcoming each day as an opportunity to grow in love. That future is within your reach, because the power of the divine that sets captives free is the same power that stands ready to empower you to live in liberty. If you feel a stirring in your soul, I encourage you not to dismiss it. Too often, we sense a call to change, but let it fade under the business of life. The next meeting, the next chore, the next distraction. These can snatch away the seeds of transformation. Tonight, decide that you will protect this seed. Water it, cherish it, allow it to put down roots. Take concrete steps. Set aside a time to reflect, to pray, to read, to talk to someone you trust. Mark it in your calendar if you have to. Don't let this moment pass without securing a commitment to move forward. Because spiritual acceptance demands an active response. It's not just a nice idea, it's a summons to step out of the shadows and into the light. You might still have questions. You might still feel some hesitation. That's okay. Bring those questions, bring those hesitations, the Almighty, and place them before the one who fashioned your heart. It's in honest dialogue that we grow. It's in wrestling that we discover the deeper truths. The Almighty, I've wrestled with doubts, I've questioned my path, and I can attest that it's in the wrestling that faith becomes more than a word. It becomes the foundation upon which you build your life. And once you've built on that foundation, storms may come, trials may test you, but the house of your spirit will stand firm. So let us gather all that we have learned and close in a spirit of anticipation. The Almighty, we have taken a journey through the 7 steps of liberating your heart and mind through spiritual acceptance, recognizing bondage, listening for the divine voice, examining the mirror of your heart, releasing your burdens, receiving the divine exchange, realigning your life, and sharing the light. Each step illuminates a facet of the pathway to freedom. Each step beckons you to come further up and further in. I cannot walk this path for you, but I can assure you that if you do walk it, you will not walk alone. The same God who calls you also accompanies you, strengthening your every move toward liberty. Now, as we stand here, poised at the threshold of transformation, I offer you a challenge and a blessing. The challenge: dare to believe that your life can be different, that your heart can be free, and that your mind can be at peace. Dare to believe that this gift is for you, not just for others. Then act on that belief. The blessing. May your spirit be filled with the peace that surpasses all understanding. May your mind be open to new possibilities, and may your heart be ignited with compassion for yourself and for those around you. May you become a living testimony that freedom is real, that divine love conquers all chains, and that hope has the final word in every story. I want you to leave this moment, whether physically from this space or metaphorically as you return to your daily life, with a renewed sense of purpose. You've been offered a key, the key of spiritual acceptance, to unlock the door to lasting liberation. Whether you stand on the mountaintop or find yourself in the valley, know that this key still works. No chain is too strong, no burden too heavy, no regret too deep for the power of grace. You are destined for more than just surviving. You are called to flourish, to shine, and to reflect the glory of the one who breathed life into you. So take that key, embrace it, and move forward unafraid. If you are willing, I invite you now, as a final gesture, to place your hand over your heart. Feel the beat within your chest. Steady, relentless, carrying the miracle of life each moment. That beating heart is a sign that you are alive, that you have a purpose, and that you are capable of change. In that heartbeat, remember the 7 steps. Remember the God who longs to set you free. Remember the community that can walk with you. Remember the destiny that awaits your eyes. Let this be a sacred moment, a turning point, a defining chapter in your story. I will leave you with these words. Let hope arise. Let love lead you. Let faith guide your steps. Let your heart be unburdened, and let your mind be at peace. And may the joy of true liberation fill your days from this moment onward. Amen and amen. Now go, my friends, and live in the freedom that has been so graciously given. Let your life be a testimony, a light shining in the darkness, a living letter of hope written for all to see. For when you are free, you become an agent of freedom for others. And that, I believe with every fiber of my being, is what the world needs more than anything today. May God bless you, keep you, and lead you onward. From glory to glory, from breakthrough to breakthrough, until you stand in the fullness of all you were created to be. Your journey begins now. Embrace it with all your heart. And may you discover, as I once did under a starry sky, that the path to liberation is open to all who dare to take the first step.